Hi there, Curryface here. I'm recording this on March 1st, and last night I pledged to the Wintersun Indiegogo campaign, which I'm glad to see is already at 55% at time of recording. I was kind of worried that it would fail, but it doesn't seem like it will. Why am I mentioning the Wintersun Indiegogo in a video titled My Thoughts on Spotify, a follow-up? It's because Wintersun posted a few weeks back about how this album won't be on Spotify, at least not yet. And of course, like an idiot, I decided to take a look at the comments on this post. And what did I find? What do you think? Hate for the band's decision, hate for Spotify, hate for the crowdfunding, hate for this, hate for that. Seeing all these differing opinions inspired me to make this follow-up video to my Why I Still Buy CDs video. The one I'm umming and ahhing constantly in. I have thought about making it before, but it's only after seeing some of these people's comments that I'd like to give my opinion on Spotify and streaming services in general. I'll only be mentioning Spotify in this video though. It's the only one I use. Okay, I think I'll start by saying that I really didn't like Spotify at first. I think it was mostly because I didn't understand how to use it, but also because Spotify's a bit crap when you're not a premium user. Adverts, no offline mode. Hell, not even having a previous track button. One to just skip back to the previous track. It's pretty much useless if you're not paying premium. I can't remember the precise reason why I got premium, but I was pleasantly surprised by the offline mode. At this point I was still drag and dropping music onto my phone, which is a pretty laborious task due to me always wanting different music on my phone and the sheer amounts I'd put on there since I'm always buying new CDs. See previous video.
Go, whereas CDs are a nice little constant.
Finally, I didn't have to link my phone up to the computer anymore. I could just save music to my Spotify profile and then select it for offline mode, which would save it to my phone's memory. It felt goddamn revolutionary, especially since I've been drag and dropping music onto my devices for 10 fucking years now. And the best part about using Spotify for me was, and still is, the fact that I can discover a new or old band, and by simply listening to their music, whether I like it or not, they're still getting some money for it. This is where for most people the differing opinions begin. Now you don't have to research too much to figure out that Spotify doesn't pay that much to the artists. Some people say they get a fraction of a penny for each individual song listen. Some people say you'd need at least 1 million listens on one song to get like 1,000 of that band's currency. Citation needed. Personally, and I say personally, I'm not going to bother researching it and I'm going to continue using Spotify. And here is why. I said a second ago that I use Spotify to find new bands, but I mostly use it to complement my CD collection. My CD collection at last count was over 550. That was last year, so I still listen to those CDs and use CDs more than I use Spotify. For example, in my car CD player and on my regular CD player while I'm playing games. However, sometimes when I'm feeling too lazy to make the 2 steps over to my CD player, I will stick on Spotify and I'll feel like I'm helping a band just by listening. How, you may ask? Well, haven't you heard of Every Little Helps? Let's think about it. I go to my local CD shop, I found a new album, purchased this album for £12. Hooray, I've supported the band. I've shown statistically that there is interest for the band in the UK, therefore the record company is more likely to arrange gigs in the UK. That means fans get to see the band live, also means merch sales. Everybody wins, champion. But what happens after all of that? The sales die down due to everybody that's actually willing to buy the album has already bought it. It's not exactly like releasing an album as a consistent stream of revenue because people only pay once for the right to listen to it, however many times they want. This is where Spotify and the phrase "every little helps" comes in. Since I've already paid £12 and the band has got their cut of that money, every single individual listen of a track on Spotify from that album I just bought means extra revenue that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Listening to a CD doesn't generate revenue for a band, but listening to a song on Spotify does. So the band is still receiving money from me, not technically my money, but it's still money as a result of me listening on Spotify. Some people would say it's such a ridiculously and laughably small amount that it effectively doesn't matter, but every little helps. Even a small amount is better than nothing, and if enough people were to listen on Spotify, the revenue generated would be even greater, helping the band even more revenue. I want to mention the less fortunate fans that can't easily afford albums and use Spotify as a cheap and legal way of listening to music. Some people get mad at them saying things like, "Come on, you can't spare a tenner," or If you can't afford it, then you don't have the right to listen to it. I don't agree with these statements, and I've always believed that if the music gives you that buzz and brings brightness to your life, then you should be allowed to listen to it. And if Spotify provides a both cheap and free platform for you to do so, then why not use it? Think about it. If somebody with a small amount of money couldn't afford an album, they wouldn't buy it, meaning no revenue for the band at all. Obvious, right? Well, if they listen on Spotify, the band are making revenue. Even if it's a small, tiny amount. Every little helps. I swear, some people get so angry about Spotify, as if Spotify's costing bands money rather than gaining bands money, which might even be true in some cases. From what I've seen, and that's not a lot, Spotify only really benefits really big artists or the really small ones, not the medium bands. I'll explain what I mean. I just said about how if people listen to an album through Spotify, the revenue generated would be greater. And if a band produces an album that stands the test of time, they can constantly and consistently make money off albums they produced years and years ago. Look at Iron Maiden's stats, for example. Iron Maiden being an example of a big band or artist. My example of a small artist is, well, I can't actually remember, to be honest. I was browsing Facebook one day and a comment a friend left on an artist's post came up on my newsfeed. Can't remember who this artist was, but I'll paraphrase what he said. He explained how he was between jobs or something, needed to pay for something or other, maybe something medical. I can't remember. But I do remember that he kindly asked his fans to listen to his music on Spotify for an entire day, 24 hours. Even if they didn't actually listen to the music, like having the device on mute, but having the music play. He said that Spotify actually does pay out rather handsomely if you're an independent artist like himself, because the revenue isn't getting split up between manager, record company, etc., etc. It's all going to him. So with that in mind, let's define a big artist, a medium artist, and a small artist on Spotify. A big artist is a band or individual that is signed to a record company but gets enough plays that they're able to pay the managers and record companies and still get a decent amount of money for themselves. A small artist is more than likely a band or individual releasing music through Spotify totally independently but still has enough of a following with active listeners to gain a decent amount of revenue. Revenue they get to keep 100% of. A medium artist is a band or individual that is signed to a record company but doesn't garner as much interest or plays as a big artist or individual. As such, the amount of plays they get generates a decent amount of revenue, but they don't get as much of it due to it being split up between managers, record companies, etc., etc. There are bands that fit in between big and medium size, but I don't want to get too bogged down in technicalities here. And the most important thing to remember is that no matter what, even if it's a small amount of money, the artist is still getting something, even if it's only a small amount. So let's bring it full circle and talk about Wintersun again. In my opinion, Wintersun and a lot of other metal bands fit into the category of medium-sized artists on Spotify. If Wintersun were to simply release their new album, The Forest Seasons, as a physical release and on Spotify, they wouldn't receive enough money to build their studio. How do I know? Because given these two choices, people would rather listen to it essentially for free on Spotify rather than purchase a physical copy. It's just the way things are these days. Everyone knows that physical media is close to death, even with the resurgence of vinyl. With the fans more than likely choosing to listen to it on Spotify, it means that Wintersun would never garner as much money as they need to build their studio and finally be able to release albums more steadily. This is why they choose to keep the album off Spotify, at least for a while, and I respect this decision. But why do I respect this decision? I just spent all this time explaining why I think Spotify is incredibly useful and advantageous. Surely I would want them to put it on Spotify for my ease of listening. Nope, everything I just said has one bottom line: supporting the bands. Purchasing their album, listening to that album on Spotify, it's all in an effort to support the band as much as possible. So by pledging to Wintersun's crowdfunding, that's exactly what I'm doing. As they've said in their updates, all proceeds go to their studio, which means music is made quicker, which means music for me, and essentially everybody wins. Win-win, as Yari keeps putting it. And when the time comes that they release it on Spotify and Nuclear Blast releases the physical copy, I'm going to buy that too, just in an effort to support the band. Now I'm going to end this video by saying that these are my opinions and how I live my life. I'm not trying to tell anyone how to live theirs and that their way is wrong, but if my opinion has helped you understand the benefits of using legal streaming services, then great. Thank you for watching this no doubt long as hell video. This video is scripted, as I'm sure you've noticed with me constantly looking up. I'm no good at speaking without a script, as seen in my previous video, Why I Still Buy CDs. Watch that video because this video is a follow-up to it. If you want to watch it, the link is right there. Thanks again, I've been Curryface, and thanks for listening all the way to the end, and cheers.